Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture. And today we're going to be talking about the newest album, the debut album from Chance the Rapper, called The Big Day. Okay, nope, I'm not doing this. I get how Chance the Rapper is framing this marketing around this project as his debut, but after multiple projects and charting hits in the 2010s, it feels patently absurd to call this his debut, especially given the layers of artificiality that's around it. But I'll be very honest. It's been very par for the course in my experience with Chance the Rapper, an artist I definitely like and has made my year-end list before with specific songs that tap into an organic emotionality that feels very genuine until you notice some of the mechanisms around him. Part of this is great business sense and an independent hustle in a distinctive lane, and for that I will give him all the credit in the world, but at least for me, whenever I've seen the artifice behind his relentless positivity, it just feels a bit hollow to me, be it from hypocrisy or slapdash construction, either in the content or the production. People have described some of his material, especially the stuff that leans towards more broader gospel, as Disney. And you know what, it's not that inaccurate. A little rougher around the edges, sure, but there is some of that sheen that can feel increasingly disingenuous the brighter and broader he comes across. And thus, I did feel skeptical about this new project, The Big Day, which I hoped would be a steady improvement from Coloring Book, but left me feeling kind of disconcerted when I saw so many tracks at nearly 80 minutes. That's a lot of Chance the Rapper, and I had serious concerns whether his particular style would be able to sustain that sort of length, especially given his uncredited features that were as sprawling as they were, from Megan Thee Stallion, DaBaby, to Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie, Shawn Mendes, and Randy Newman. Not to mention multiple Nicki Minaj features for some reason. But hey, you know what? I had to hope Chance didn't stretch this out purely for stream trolling. He is still independent after all, the label wouldn't tell him to do it. And you know what? Maybe this would be the epic swing for the fences that could actually stick the landing. So, alright, what the hell? Or, sorry about that. What do we get on The Big Day? So, okay, y'all know how I frame my reviews. I normally write my whole preamble before I even hear the album or see other reviews. Try to keep a measured and more organic perspective solely from me. And yet, while I was planning to come here and discuss a project that has serious flaws, but nevertheless is pretty good, I caught some glimpses at other music outlets and other parts of music Twitter, only to discover that this is the newest project people have decided is the worst thing ever in 2019, and the freshest disappointment to hit mainstream hip-hop. And while I agree with similar assessments of Logic's last album, or even was far more negative, excoriating Juice WRLD's disaster, somehow I'm in the weird position of having to defend this album from waves of hatred that are not only wildly overstated, but also seem incredibly inconsistent. Folks, cool your jets with this one, because not only is this not that bad, it's also exactly the sort of album you could have predicted coming from Chance the Rapper given his body of work. Now again, that's not saying this project doesn't have problems, because it absolutely does. The first being the overwhelming and really quite exasperating length, where if he had cut a good half of this project down, he could have wound up with a far stronger album. It absolutely feels like a project that's trying to feel like a very important event riding on waves of pomp and circumstance, which, yes, Chance can carry on charisma and manic energy alone, but they're also not the notes that best flatter a lot of his delivery, and as such, this is overstuffed with so many wild pivots and diversions that you find yourself dying and wishing for an editor, which frankly I would have argued is the case for all of his prior projects, including the more critically acclaimed ones like Acid Rap, so not really surprising. But in comparison with how thematically scattered some of those earlier works could be, The Big Day does have something of an arc riding through it. It's a wedding album, and like its indie rock parallel, Father of the Bride by Vampire Weekend this year, for all the gloss and shimmering tones, there's entirely too much tonal whiplash and lingering feelings of redundancy. Just swap out electronic pivots for trap and dance pop diversions. And like with that project, if you've got the suspicion because of all of its circumstances, it feels a little bit more weightless, flabby, and lacking in tension than it really should, not helped by the tension-destroying religious subtext where Chance the Rapper's self-assuredness can kind of try your patience. Well, I mean, we'll come back to this, but I will say his earnestness and self-awareness, he's a more agreeable presence than Ezra Koenig's detachment and nihilism. Well, if you got those issues, I hear it for sure. Hell, my point is here is that it's not really all that new. Maybe less of issues on Acid Rap, but they were certainly factors on on Coloring Book. A lot of this you could have seen coming. And this is where we hit the first point of criticism that feels a little disingenuous. How not only is Chance's kind of corny, your mileage may vary on this, but there's at least a lightness of tone and a bit of a goofy flair to most of these songs that someone like Big Sean has never ever had and often winds up being far worse. But also that he's more socially conservative because he's making an album stridently promoting marriage and monogamy. And you know what? Maybe it's just me listening to way too much country music for so long where a song like Eternal doesn't seem all that preachy. It's not like he's wrong about highlighting the little things that the side hookups don't do for you. And if you're taking that as judgment on your own situation, that might be more on you than Chance. But he's also pretty frank about his own unique situation on multiple songs. We Go High, great dissection of the struggle that he had to reunite with his now wife, both on his own failures to be single in the current climate, how his infidelity was a stain that they had to reconcile, and the weight that comes in trying to be a better example and having that on his shoulders. So when we get the genuine love songs from the bouncier I Got You Always and Forever to the title track's slow build to its manic explosion to the raw euphoria that comes on Let's Go on the Run, it does feel credible and honestly feels earned. Now granted, that momentum absolutely slips when he's expected to follow it with songs featuring Megan Thee Stallion being as flagrant as ever and a really boring flex from Gucci Mane, even if I do like that hook. But then you get this weirdly placed dance pop piece with Shawn Mendes of all people. It's almost borderline house, but when the mood stabilizes and the skit with Keith David playing a friend inquiring of what the hell Chance is gonna do next, it leads to 5 Year Plan, where he is now forced to get more low-key and introspective, and it's one of the better cuts here. Now again, this is where sequencing really hurts him, and songs could have easily been trimmed down. Some come down, places Chance as defensive. It's never been good framing for him, even if he pulls things around in the end. And while Single No More is possessive and heavy-handed, given Chance's previously described romantic history, it makes sense that there is some loaded assertions from both sides never to cheat again. I mean, we got that from Jay and Beyonce. But things turn around by the heartfelt yearning of Town on the Hill and the more conscious, aspirational charges of Xannies and Fools. Although why on earth Chance chose to end things out with a Nicki Minaj verse that doesn't really fit, it is certainly questionable. Now, how I would have ended the album. But while there is absolutely fat here to be trimmed, it is nowhere near as presumptuous or condescending or even as nice guy pandering as Chance the Rapper has made before. If you dig into what he's actually said across, let's say, Coloring Book, or even this album. Forget Jay and Beyonce making multiple critically beloved albums repairing their relationship with a similar arc. If people gave a pass to the emotionally abusive relationship described on Kanye's last album, Ye, that was only further validated and glorified by the framing, you might really want to question where you're drawing a moral line in your art on conservative. Unless, of course, it's the religious framing, which A, everyone knew was coming, B, actually feels more balanced and mature than it was in Coloring Book, C, actually kinda makes sense for a wedding album, and D, seems conveniently ignored when the tone is darker, even if that angle raises some more questionable implications like the whole black Israelite guilt plaguing Kendrick Lamar's Damn, or the anti-vax nonsense we saw on that last Freddie Gibbs Madlib album with the Nation of Islam subtext. Now, if you're thinking all the relentlessly positive and upbeat vibe is not all that sustainable through an overlong project, that the darker trap pivots are the wrong choices to mute it, that the stakes are lower than they should be for an album trying for this sort of grandeur and emotional reconciliation, or that the thematic core is underwhelming, not helped by the religious angle, all of that I might be able to understand. But those aren't the arguments I'm seeing being made here, or indeed much of the way has been delved into the content of what's actually being said at all, and for that sort of backlash, you kinda need some focus on the content. Now, granted, the big retort to everything I just said is, who cares? It's way too long, and it's not like the music's all that compelling here anyway. And that's the other weird thing, because when it comes to the production, especially in comparison with Sir for Coloring Book, this might be the most refined project associated with Chance the Rapper to date. Yeah, I'm not kidding, and while the vocal blending isn't as consistent as it should be, for once it seems like some of the more dance-ready songs, he actually picked a groove here from From the rubbery clinking funk of Eternal to the sandy percussion and faded guitars on I Got You Always and Forever, a little bit more of an R&B vibe there. From the jaunty piano playing off the organic drums on Let's Go on the Run that's really propulsive, and the humid texture percussion of Zannies and Fools, to the bassy house knock of Ballin' Flossin' and Found a Good One, Single No More. Even in the last two cases where I don't quite think the songs fully work, there is more textured foundation and melodic balance than Chance often has. Hell, while even the chipmunk vocals kind of get annoying on the wiry skitter of Get a Bag, that slight cushion of organ within it actually helps the song wind up more enjoyable than I would expect. If anything, the songs that really don't work for me, just like on the last Big Crit project, are the oddly cheap sounding trap clunkers that just feel melodically undercooked. We start off with Hot Shower, continue to crop up for Handsome, Big Fish, and Slide Around. But you know what, hell, you give some of these instrumentals to any number of other mainstream MCs with less expectations, and I wouldn't see them getting nearly the same criticism. If anything, it seems more because we're expecting a lot more tune and organic variety and flavor coming from Chance than just defaulting to the raw basics, especially with Callboy and Made TYO failing in their whole Playboy Cardi impersonation. And while we're on the topic of guest stars, I do question why Gucci Mane, or really either of those Nicki Minaj verses, were essential when DaBaby, Smino, and even Chance's brother Taylor Bennett, they delivered fairly decent verses themselves, although that last one comes on the album's darkest, synth-inflected song Rue, which also hits at a weird moment in the track sequencing and doesn't match the tone well at all. But I'll be honest, the best moments on this album for me are when Chance leans into the organic yearning that might feel a little bit more ramshackle in its construction, but it's such a unique and great comfort zone for him. From the flashy piano-driven knock of All Day Long with John Legend sounding really good, that's followed very quickly by the wiry keys and the warped chipmunk echo opposite Ben Garrett on Do You Remember? The more subdued pieces like the lo-fi piano and the subtle snap around We Go High, a song I honestly didn't quite love the hook, but it really turned out quite emotionally effective. And then the glassy touch of the keys and the pianos on 5-Year Plan, and Randy Newman handling the outro in a way that took a little to get used to, but I like it. Then the clipped stuttering gloss of Sun Come Down to the faint vocal snippets around the gentle Town on the Hill. Not the first time that Justin Vernon of Bon Iver's Touch shows up, but it really shows up on the best on the title track, which has just enough subtle build-up to earn that wild manic payoff with Francis and the Lights. I know some people found it a bit jarring, but for me, it is the centerpiece of the album and plays into their natural and unique balance. Such a thrilling moment and really quite unique for Chance. It kind of fits the wedding arc of the album too. And again, a huge part of this does come back to Chance himself. There is something about his imperfect rasp, his genuine yearning, his knack for the fine details and his humor that are often more clever than he's given credit, but also some real emotive maturity coloring a marriage with baggage behind it that actually works, both singing and rapping. At least if you're closer to that stage of life in order to appreciate it, and I might just be. It kind of clicks in that lane. And yeah, it's kind of corny, but that doesn't surprise me. You knew it was coming. But as a whole, look, it's the third wedding album I've heard thus far this year. They're nearly all too long, not quite delivering the dimensionality they should, and have left longtime fans frustrated or underwhelmed. But of all three of them, The Big Day by Chance the Rapper probably deserves all the backlash the least. Even if it is bloated and the trap pivots feel superfluous, and the bangers that we do get, they probably could have afforded to lean less on dance grooves and more on the Chicago hip-hop organic tones that broke him through. If anything, this album just reminds me a lot of most weddings I've attended, where the bride and the groom, they always claim they want that intimate setting. Hell, Chance even does that on Sun Come Down. But it always winds up being kind of overdone, overstuffed, and overladen with everyone else's expectations. Even if at the core, the most genuine and sincere moments, they do wind up working. And this, for me, 7 out of 10. A real recommendation. It's good, not great. Probably best to pick out the best moments and slim this down to an easier listen after one full run through. But otherwise, you know what, I don't see it having the same immediate standouts like Sunday Candy or even No Problem. I honestly don't see this album doing quite as well. It might even flop for him, but for me, it's got its moments. I'll still take this. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. You'd like to like and subscribe, I'd be more than grateful. I know this review is long, but I kind of had to focus on a couple elements here that worked in comparison. I think this album's getting way too much hate for really what it is. It's kind of too inoffensive to hate that much. And honestly, it's got enough great moments that puts it in quality territory for me. So if you want to buy or stream it, links down there below. I got the poll for y'all to tell me how wrong I am, although in this case, I think I might be more right than some of you are giving it credit. And hey, the comments are down there. You all tell me how wrong I am down there too. Beyond that, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you're looking for that next episode of Billboard Breakdown dropping tomorrow, it's on the new channel. Links over here in the card right over there. But hey, till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.